Hello and welcome to a new video on the channel. In today's video, what we're going to be talking about is just my setup in general. This is basically a setup video and hopefully it lives up to the ones that I enjoy just watching all the time on YouTube, especially when it came to designing the desk and doing what I want with the setup. So hopefully it lives up to those expectations that I have in my head as well. And yeah, hopefully it lives up to the videos that you guys have watched as well. Before the video does fully begin, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, help it grow, everything like that, that'd be great. And let's just begin basically talking about the desk itself. So to begin with, the desktop itself is sat on top of 3 Alex drawers. One is blue, 2 of them are black. The blue one is my girlfriend's, which is on her side of the desk, which is currently just being used primarily just for like camera gear and storing stuff. We're also going to be sorting out the areas behind me right now, just because it is a little bit bland behind me. We're probably going to put a few shelves up so that all the camera equipment can sit on there, as eventually she wants to get an iMac and have it there. Currently, these drawers, however, basically just have random bits inside of them. I'm going to be sorting them out at some point and hopefully getting some dividers just to actually make it a little bit more make sense in general. But above these drawers, you've got this L-shaped dark oak desk that I got custom made from a company local to where I live, and it's pretty nice, especially for the price of it. This cost us £200 in total, so £100 each, and that included it being joined, so that's great, so can't complain there. Above the desk, we have this mouse mat that's 120 centimeters by 60 centimeters, which I bought off Amazon for £30, which is a pretty decent deal in my opinion anyway, considering how expensive some of them are in some videos. You see some ones from Grovemade that obviously I don't doubt that Grovemade are probably a very great quality product. However, £400 on a mouse mat equal to this, you know, in terms of just its usage, kind of makes me question why I would spend that amount of money when I can just spend £30 and have a good mouse mat that works. And as well, one great benefit of this, there has a really small logo on it, so I don't end up having to worry about just having a massive blaring logo that I'm going to have to see all of the time. So all in all, £30 just for that, I'll gladly say that's a great deal. Before I talk about what's on the mouse mat itself, I'm going to talk about the monitors and the audio aspects first. So to begin with, I was swapping out my 34-inch ultrawide, which was a Samsung monitor, out for these 2 monitors behind me, which are both BenQ monitors. One is 27-inch, which is the gaming monitor on the left. It's 144Hz, 1440p res, which I bought off Amazon for £270, and the monitor on the right is a 4K 28-inch monitor that cost me just under £200. Both of these were initially going to be mounted to the wall, however the wall couldn't actually handle the monitors, so I had to buy a mount that can hold up to 15 kg, which works great. That cost me in total £35 for the mount itself, which honestly isn't too bad. Some of them can be very pricey. I'm also considering mounting the ultrawide just above these 2 just here. However, personally, I don't know if I need the screen real estate, so I might just leave it at these 2 so it's just not completely obnoxiously massive and tons of screens. Speakers are next, which are only Logitech Z200s, which I bought off Amazon around about 3 years ago at this point. They were £30, they're still £30 to this day, and personally I'd say if you need a good pair of speakers that you can just kind of use generally, I would 100% recommend these. You don't have to spend tons of money for speakers. I think that's one of the big fallacies of setups, that you need to spend all this money on them. Spending good money on speakers will allow you to obviously have great editing, content, audio anyway. However, when it comes to just general use, if you're just going to be watching YouTube videos with them or maybe listening to music occasionally, it works out better just to buy these speakers instead, which honestly, they look great as well. They kind of match the theme anyway of the desk. Well, not the theme. There isn't really a theme with the setup per se, but it kind of was a envisioned idea of all the different things that I had going for it, which was the dark oak, the matte, and obviously my PC being white and black, so it works with that as well. Next in the audio department is the microphone, which is one of my favorite upgrades that I made from my old setup to this one. The microphone that I'm currently using to record this, as well as the one that you're seeing on screen now, is the Shure SM7B, which is one of the best microphones that you can buy. I got a 2 meter long XLR cable, just as I needed the extra slack. I tried it with a 1 meter and it just wasn't good. It held too tight to the desk and just didn't work. This is connected to a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 audio interface, which is sat on my desk, so I can always adjust the mic settings whenever required. And as well as that, what I love about it in comparison to the Razer Siren beforehand is that I can actually see visibly on there how my audio is coming across, if it's too loud, if it's too quiet, and so on. Originally, I bought this amplifier for the mic, which cost £149. However, it didn't work, and I ended up having to return it anyway, and I found that it just works fine with this. I'm never going to need the extra 25 decibels anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like I'm screaming into my mic. So instead of spending £616, I only ended up spending £467 instead, which personally, obviously it's a lot of money for a microphone, but considering I actually really want to pursue doing this properly and going for it, it's one of those purchases that personally I'm very happy with. It's going to last me a long time and be worthwhile when it comes to the content creation as a whole. Lastly, in the audio department, I have the Sony WH-1000X M3s, which I bought around about 3 years ago at this point, which are amazing quality headphones. Honestly, I couldn't recommend them more than any other headphone that I've ever used ever. When I bought them, they were £270, and that's currently just a little bit more than what the XM4s are currently worth. They're worth about £250 currently, and they're probably going to release the XM5s soon anyway. But the 3rd gen ones are currently just under £200, which is actually a really great deal if you're looking for great quality headphones, for all purposes anyway, as I used it for traveling, for example, to New York, and the noise cancelling on them is absolutely amazing and works perfectly. I don't think I could recommend a pair of headphones more. Previously, before this, I had Beats Solos, and they were horrendous in comparison to these. The feel of these is so much better, the actual comfort levels on them, considering how thin they are as well, is great quality in comparison to, let's say, just Beats as a whole. Beats are very expensive when you consider the actual quality of them, and the feel of them are not that great. Alrighty, we're now going to talk about what's actually on the mouse mat now that we've got the visuals out of the way, and as well as that, the audio. So I bought the Keychron K2, which cost me around about £80, which ever since getting into the keyboard kind of rabbit hole on YouTube, I've just ended up really loving this kind of like hobby as a whole. I can't wait to eventually do something in the future with it. But I want to get some new keycaps at some point for this keyboard and eventually make my own, which would be a great project just to have there. Now you're going to hear a little bit of ASMR with this keyboard. This has the red switches in it. You can get this keyboard in 3 different switches. I believe it's brown and then blue, I believe. Don't quote me on that 100%. They all cost the same price, and you can choose to get them in RGB or just white. I got the RGB version, as personally, you might as well spend less, because at the time it was less money than the white version. I was like, might as well, even though I'm going to only use it in white generally, because I think it looks better that way. But when it comes to it, I love these keys overall. Honestly, it might be because I'm a noob to the hobby, but overall, when it comes to the red switches, I just think they sound amazing, and in comparison to the previous keyboard, which was the Razer Huntsman that this was replacing, which cost £150 when I first bought it, the keys in comparison sound so much better, and I love typing on this thing. Even right now, I've been using this keyboard now for about 2 months, and I'm absolutely in love with it. Every time I type on it, it's just great and satisfying to use. I've kept the wrist rest from the previous keyboard, primarily because I don't know if I have carpal tunnel. I might do, who knows. I should probably go to a doctor and find out, but when I type for basically more than like 30 minutes, my wrists are absolutely aching when I'm using this wrist rest anyway. When I'm not using the wrist rest, it's within about 5 minutes. And it's the same when it comes to my mouse. Basically, I have to use this grip, which I'll show you in a moment. But when it comes to the actual wrist rest, I tried getting different ones, and obviously you can get the ones that look aesthetically pleasing. A lot of people get the wooden ones. I bought one. It was too big for the keyboard anyway, but when I was using it, it was the most uncomfortable thing. I don't understand why people use them, personally. If you're going to get one, make sure it's padded, as there's literally no functional purpose of getting one that's wooden. Now onto the wrist rest that I bought off Amazon. It's one of the silicone ones that you can buy from them. It costs £3 to buy from them, so do not spend the £30 that loads of YouTubers will be recommending to you, because they'll be, you know, basically trying to charge you 10x the price for the same product, and I've looked into this. They are literally the same thing, or at least bordering identical, and there is literally zero point of spending 10 times the price when you could just buy one for £3. It works perfectly fine. Ever since I bought one, I've found that honestly my wrist does not hurt anywhere near as much. It takes a lot longer now. It takes around about 2 to 3 hours of just active use for my wrist now on my right side to actually start kicking into hurting when I'm using it, which is great. Now though, what we're going to be talking about is the mice. I have 2 on the desk. Firstly, I'll talk about the Razer Basilisk, which only weighs 100 grams. I really like it. It's the first wireless mouse I've ever owned. owned when it comes to actually using it for my PC anyway. However, one of the main issues that I do have with it is that it's micro USB instead of USB-C. I don't really understand the reason for that. It kind of irritates me considering on the PC I have a USB-C slot anyway, and as well my keyboard is USB-C. It would be very nice if I could just charge them all the same, and the same with the other mouse on this desk, which is the MX Master 2, which also charges by USB-C. This mouse as well is great value for money, especially right now. As for the MX Master 2, you're currently looking at £90 on Amazon to buy this one, which is currently on a deal as of the making of this script anyway. It's £90 on Amazon. You're looking at £30 cheaper than the actual 3rd gen, so obviously if you want a really good productivity mouse, then this is probably the one for you. Unless you want to spend that extra £30 anyway, get the 3rd gen one, which is the mouse that I do want to eventually get to. So with that, basically it means that one mouse is basically around £90 currently, the other one cost me £80. The MX Master connects to my MacBook, and then the keyboard can swap between the PC and Mac anyway, and then the Razer Basilisk is connected solely to my PC, which for gaming has worked perfectly, and honestly I just really like using it. I prefer it over the MX Master just because of the grip and overall lightness of the mouse. It is one of the most amazing purchases I could have made. Then you've got cameras. One of them I'm using right now, which is the main camera I use pretty much all the time, which is the ESO RP, which if you want to watch a review talking about that one, make sure to go check that out. It will be in the link down below. But when it comes to this camera, let's just say it's the one that I use for photography, for the videos, everything. It works so well between everything I want to use for it. In terms of photography purposes, it's a great buy if you're wanting for a mirrorless camera and wanting an entry into mirrorless cameras anyway. But with these videos, it works well for what I want to do it with, and obviously I have the option to shoot in 4K if I chose to. However, because of where I have to shoot my videos, it's kind of awkward to try and record, especially because of how cropped the actual 4K makes the video. But all in all, great quality camera. I don't have it on desk. I can't really show you right now. I might use my iPhone just to record a little bit just to show you the camera as it is. But the other camera that I do have is the Canon G7x Mark III, which honestly, it's a really great travel compact camera, and I've hardly used it. Generally, I'm considering just using it as like a webcam for when I do live streams in the future, and then taking it with me just when I like go traveling and that sort of thing. So we've got something small that we can just take out straight away when we aren't walking around with our cameras anyway. And then in terms of tripod that I use for it, it's a Manfrotto Tripod, which I'll have linked down below as well. Everything that I talk about in this video will be linked in the description. But with that tripod, it is amazing. It's one of the best tripods I've ever used. I've gone through quite a few at this point, and this one works in great variety for me, especially when it comes to recording these videos. As for example, the MacBook video that I recorded, this worked perfectly for the shots that I needed, and when I eventually do an update for things like a phone video, or when it comes to anything else that I want to talk about tech-wise, it will just work perfectly for those angles. Before I talk about the core of the setup, I'm going to be talking about the laptop that I've got as well. So as I just mentioned, I have a MacBook Pro. It's the M1 Pro 14-inch with 0.5 TB storage, which personally I'm in love with. It's honestly the best laptop that I've ever had. Again, all of these things are basically the best thing that I've ever had in those comparisons, mainly because I decided to go all out basically on getting what I wanted, as I thought might as well go for what I want instead of getting something that I don't want and then ending up hating it in the future. But personally, I love it when I'm just on the go or if I'm in bed, that sort of thing. It just works in great variety. It means that I can edit my videos as well, and it runs everything perfectly well. In my MacBook video that I made talking about it 6 months later, which again will be down in the description, I talk about how, for example, it was able to edit an entire video critique that I made that was an hour and a half long, and it was able to do it without any issues. This laptop is then also connected to the 4K display, which is really nice and works amazingly. And like I mentioned, make sure to go check out that MacBook video, as it's one that I'm honestly really proud of. Then you have my PC, which is the main beast controlling the whole setup, which is a 2070, 16 gigs of RAM with an i7-8700, which all in all, this PC is great and currently costs you around about £1,500 to build when it comes to the exact parts that I have in it. When I built it, it cost me just over £2,000 to build. The PC that I want to build next will cost me around about £3,500. I know I could just upgrade the parts inside of this PC. However, I'm someone who actually enjoys the process of building a computer, and I would love just to build one from scratch again. But that PC, when I eventually do it, I will 100% make a video out of it, as I can't wait for it, and it's just an absurd amount of power that I probably don't need currently, but I just want. And then you've also got the case on this PC. I love this case. It only cost me £60, I believe. It costs £50 for the basic version. Then if you want the tempered glass version, it's an extra £10, which that's the one that I went for, so it's a little bit heavier and it just means they won't crack as easily. But when it comes to that case, considering the price and especially the price that you get for some of the cases that look as sleek and just as nice as this one, it's a great value for money 100%. So yeah, if you are looking to build your first PC and you want a case that just allows you to see into it and looks great whilst doing it and is very minimal, honestly would recommend this over every single case that I've looked at. Notebooks is one of those guilty pleasures of mine that I know that I get judged for all the time by people. My girlfriend also judges me every now and again for my notebooks, but when it comes to it, I really just enjoy being able to write on just paper. I just think there's something nice about doing that, and honestly just notebooks in general, there's just something nice about having them. The one that you're seeing cost me £15, and honestly it was an amazing quality feel, really cool design, and considering it's £15, you can go into like places in the UK, like just general grocery stores for example, where they'll be charging you £10 for one that looks awful in comparison to this. The paper's really thin and it's just dreadful. I know it's really random to have this like really weird niche of a thing to care about, but I just love notebooks, something great about writing in them. I've decided to label this one a creative landmine. I don't know why, well I do. The main reason why is just because it's going to be the one that I'm mainly using for all the video ideas or other endeavors that I decide to go down or think about. Basically anything creative that's going through my mind and I just want to note it down or walk through in my head going through it, then I'm going to write it down in this notebook and basically just build up a load of creative ideas just into one place. I also have my journal and as well a diary for 2020, which I use that one just basically writing down just kind of what I want to do every single day, and the journal obviously for journaling purposes. I have a journal video on YouTube, however I want to make a new one as I think I can do a better job at it. But everyone should 100% have a notebook that they just want to write in. Honestly, just being able to write, I know there's a lot of people that just say just use your iPad or just use Apple Notes for example. I don't think anything beats writing on paper, and as well so many studies have proven that you're more likely to do something if you've written it down versus just thinking it or putting it down in your notes app. Then on the other side of the desk, you've got the console slash Wi-Fi slash TV section, where I'll go through some different things that I have there. But firstly, we've got the 55-inch curved Samsung TV that I will eventually upgrade, but I'm going to do it once we move out, and that way we have one great TV for a living room and then one great TV for a bedroom. As well as that though, underneath we've got the Nintendo Switch, there's the Pokemon Eevee edition, so that's why it is yellow and has some engravings. Really nice, just really neat design. Just above the TV though, we've got the Apple TV, which I want to upgrade to the 4K version, as I never actually realized I didn't have the 4K version, but it does the job, and honestly I can't ever see myself going back from using an Apple TV. Just the remote's great, and honestly the system itself works so well. Now behind the wall on the other side, you've got the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, which both are great consoles in their own right, and I will be making an up-to-date video talking about both consoles, especially now that there's more stuff out for both of them. But in terms of just a general video, if you want to watch it, make sure to go check out the video that I've got linked down below for that. But when it comes to those two consoles, brilliant. I've been using the PlayStation 5 a little bit more recently, however I'm going to be jumping back onto the Xbox to do my next video critique. Then on the other side of that, you've got the Starlink router, which has been working perfectly. I have to use the 5 GHz version for it to work properly with my PC. But all in all, there will be a proper Starlink video coming out where I want to discuss everything, why I got it. I'll just show you on screen now, just a general idea of why I got it. As you can see, about 17 megabytes per second with Sky with a 2 upload versus 312, which is very fluctuating. I've never had an actual speed test with the 5 GHz version of Starlink that's been below 120 meg download and below 8 up. So all in all, it's been a perfect system so far, and I can't wait to do more things like live streaming with it, as it's something that I've never been able to do when you live in the countryside. But like I mentioned, with Starlink, it's basically the case of I can't use the 2.4 GHz version, so it has to use the 5 GHz, which is amazing. We've decided to run the cable underneath the carpet so that it can be in the room. It goes out the window and it works great, so no complaints from me so far. It's very early days obviously, and I will make a video talking about Starlink and then a future video talking about my experience over, let's say, 3-6 months and so on. Then you've got cable management, which is an area that I'm going to be working on over time for when I eventually make a full update on this setup, probably near the end of the year maybe. But when it comes to it, I like to call this kind of a functional management system. Obviously, it's not the prettiest looking of everything. You'll see behind the TV, for example, where it doesn't necessarily look amazing, but it works for what it needs to do. Behind the TV, we have a Hdmi Switcher, which has got all 3 consoles plugged into it, with one going into the TV, which I've got the Elgato HD60, TV, which can be easily swapped between recording or just using the TV. Then you've got this a lot thicker HDMI, which allows me to sync it up to a monitor. So if I want to record or just play games in general on my monitor, then I can do that easily by swapping one cable out. In terms of the cable management for the setup itself, like I mentioned, it's all a work in progress, and it is something that I'm going to be working on. You obviously see this red coil cable that's on the setup itself, and then the behind the setup, it's a bit messy, but it's all something that I'm going to be working on a lot more over time, and isn't something that I necessarily need to get done right now, and I'm going to just work on once I've got longer extension leads, more cable pins, and more ties that I need. So yeah. Anyway, that is it when it comes to the video talking about the setup. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to leave a like and do subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. Like I mentioned, I make gaming videos primarily, but I also make tech videos, self-development videos, and pretty much anything that I want to create on Wednesdays. Fridays is for gaming, and once a month roughly I try to upload a gaming critique. The next one that you see should have been Red Dead, hopefully. Currently I'm in the process of still scripting it when I'm making this video, but you should have seen my full video of me going from my old house to this house. So if you want to see the actual process of doing all the setup, doing the room that we're in currently, then make sure to go check out that video. It's a lot longer than this one, but make sure to go check that out. And yeah, with that all being said, make sure to leave a like, do subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.